All right, welcome back to Chapter 6, video number 11. We're going to talk about returning values to variables. And in this example is when we're calling a method, we can then get that calling method to return a value. So in the example here, we've got initializing a variable as an integer combined age. And then we're also going to assign that variable equal to the results of a method we call sum. And there probably is no space there. So whatever age, user age and friend age, let's say that's 20 and 21, for example. That information gets passed into the method. Now this method here is not a void method. We have a access modifier here, and then we have the data type here. So normally we have void, but we can also return an integer value. So this particular method we're going to write has two arguments. Of course, the parameter here is number 1 and the parameter number 2, and we're going to pass those in here. So what happens is if that number was 21 and that was 22, that becomes 21, that becomes 22, and then this becomes 21, that becomes 22, and then it returns the result of that calculation, which is 43, 21, 22, or whatever it happens to be. And then so what happens, this becomes the answer, 43. And then the combination age, the combined age of those two people would be 43, for example, if it was 21, 22. So that's an example of how returning values work. And it changes the data type. So the access modifier can still be public or private, but we'd have to change it from void to int because we're returning an integer value. Of course, this could be a double. If we had to return a double or decimal or whatever we happen to have, they would all work. Now, returning a Boolean method. Now, this one here is a very handy method because, and you guys will have to write one of these for your assignments. And this method here, again, we're going to do this as a private access modifier. In this type, the data type is a Boolean data type, and we're going to create an event here called, or this is an event here called, is it even? And we only have one number that we're using accepting as a parameter, whatever that number happens to be, and it's an integer value. So if the number happens to be, let's assume a moment we pass in the number 2 as number. So we're going to declare a variable in here called is, or the number is even. Is that true or false? That's all we can hold, true or false. So if whatever number, let's say I did 2, is mod 2. Now mod means to divide the number by the other number, but just give up the whole value and drop the remainder. So is 2 divided by 2? The answer is 2. The remainder, I should say, is 0. If 2 divided by 2, there's no remainder, and that's what mod returns. It's not exactly, it is, and 2 is exactly equal to 0 because 2 is an even number, and therefore we assign true Boolean expression to our new Boolean data type here. And then we return it back, and we tell the calling method that the number is even, and it actually is true. If it was 3, for example, it would come back here, it would say, is 3 divided by 2, and the answer would be, that would divide into it once, and then there would be a remainder of 1 in that case. So that would mean it was odd. So this would fail, and it would run the else, and then the variable, the Boolean variable number is even, would become false and return that back to the calling program. So this is a really handy one when we want to determine odd or even numbers using this new this mathematical operator here called mod, M-O-D, which is just a percent sign, instead of using a forward slash, which is just divide, for example. On the next slide, there's a couple other examples of how we could run this, where we could take a number to see if it's odd or even, divided by 2. And remember, when you do a mod 2, I shouldn't say divide, when you do a mod 2, it's only going to return either a 1 or a 0 in that case. So we could test it either in a condition, an if-else situation, or we could even use a switch here if it's 0 or it's 1 and do the same type of behavior. To write that code. It really is up to the coder and the programmer on how they want to write that. But the idea here is to use this modulus or mod operator to evaluate and see if the expression is true or false. It's a very common way to do that. All right, so I hope that explains a little bit more about how we can do returning values, Boolean methods, and we'll see you in the next video.